This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to andBeyond Phinda. We're just sitting here with two zebra and listening to everything wake up from the night. Some beautiful noises and quite a beautiful scene. It's a nice cool morning here on andBeyond Phinda, which is we're very grateful for after yesterday's pretty hot morning or day. And we came out and there's such a beautiful scene around us that we just decided to stop and appreciate. So, welcome to your live safari in the African bush. So these zebras, just like us, are kind of seem to be just chilling and enjoying the morning. I think that after the night time, or when it's finally light after a long night, it's quite a relief for animals like zebra, also impala. Nighttime is quite a scary time for them, where they have to be on full alert because their eyesight doesn't do as well in the dark as it does in the light. So just like us, they're kind of unwinding from the night, or we're just waking up. I suppose they're kind of winding down. But we've also stopped for this unbelievably beautiful scene around us. But I'm Kim, and behind the camera today we've got Odie. And yeah, we're just excited to have you here with us today. I want to show you this beautiful scene that we've got to my left. The sun rising over Phinda. Got the vegetated sand dunes miles in the distance that I don't know if you'll be able to see. It's kind of the furthest horizon that you can see. And pretty cool, one special thing about andBeyond Phinda is that it's one of the only places that you can see the big five and then go to the beach as well. Scuba dive, Sodwana Bay is just past those dunes, a little bit further to our north. And yeah, I mean, it's a really, really cool place. It's, having the ocean so nearby is some of what is the reason for the diversity that we've got here on andBeyond Phinda. And some of that diversity is the birds around us. I mean, you can just hear there are so many birds calling. And we've recorded over 450 species of birds on Phinda itself, which is a really, really high number. Seeing as there are only about 900 bird species in southern Africa. We came into this area to look for leopard. There has been one around this area, so I think we're going to carry on with that search as we continue to just enjoy this beautiful morning. But we're going to send you over to Andrew to see how he's doing this morning.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve here, where it looks like we have a southern ground hornbull feeding on probably defecations of a rhino there. My name's Andrew and I have David this morning. It's a chosen road that we decided to take, and as you can see, the southern ground hornbull is there. It's actually a rhino maiden there where he is. Trying for probably the beetles and the worms. Doing a hunt. So the temperature of this morning, we're sitting on 20 degrees Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit. As you can still beautiful morning there. Oh, it's open sky for sure. Remember, we're coming to you live from this location this morning, and we're happy to take your questions and comment. If you can register on WildEarth website, head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions and comment there. Looks like it's got something. If you listen on the background, so they actually kind of Michelle, I agree, you must love these birds. They're so cool, you know, especially with the noises that you can hear on the background. This is all communication, early communication. And it's such a massive sound for such a bird. Off it goes. And perch in the marula tree. So Megan, you say you love their calls, very haunting. So they have an incredible vocal, and this is where they mainly do them when they're up in trees, so that the sound can travel far away. Well, still actually bright in early morning, so it's still a lot quieter than midday there, where the sound of most animals that travel further away. So I'm gonna carry on do search around here, see what happened last night. I'm gonna be sending you across to Lorraine to say hi to everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a busy morning, at least, for the weavers here on Djuma Private Game Reserve. There's a slight nip in the air today. I've got my fleece on. It's not exactly warm. And I've already checked the hyena den. And it's not active, I'm afraid. My name is Lauren, and I do have Simon on camera today. And because the hyena den is not active, I think I'm going to go back across to Simbambili. There was a lot of action there last night. We had 3 leopards. We had Nzutini, and then she went west. Then we had Shidulu and Kara, who had a fight, believe it or not. I think, from what I could gather from all the other vehicles, Kara tried to steal Shidulu's kill, and there was a really aggressive encounter. So I'd like to go back that way. I don't imagine they will both be there, but I'd like to go and check and see what else we can find from that area. But first, because the hyena den's not active, I thought let's just come to this pan and soak up some of the action from the weavers. Because in a few months, this will all be gone. There will be no more weavers, there will be no more calling, the water levels will drop. Maybe not completely, but I do think for this pan completely. All the nests will die, maybe some of them will drop to the ground. The insect life will be pretty much non-existent around this pan. So we may as well enjoy it while we can. And there's different species here. I see both the village and the southern masked. Different species of weavers that use this pan. And it's a really good spot for some birds as well, unusual birds. It's just always a good place to come. It's right on Gowrie Main, which means that you can also check the southern boundary to see if anyone's crossed in or anyone's crossed out. We did have male leopard tracks walking right through our camp. Oh yes, right past our bedroom. I believe it's Mr. Tingana. He decided to take a leisurely stroll through camp at some point last night. And he's now around the dam camp area. So I'm sure Andrew will be heading there in a bit. Now, the ones that look like they have a mottled pattern, a sort of messy back, that's the village. The southern masks look a little bit tidier in terms of their coloration and their plumage. What a great start to the morning. I'm going to head west now, going to Simbambili, and we're going to send you guys across to Yapi.
So we start with good morning and welcome to andBeyond in Ngala, to all our viewers. This morning we are in the Timbavati riverbed, and we are currently trying to see if we can pick up on any tracks of anything. We had lions nearby where we are, and it was a very quiet evening, no calls, nothing. Myself, I'm Yapi. Behind the camera we've got BK, and we're gonna stick in the riverbed for a little while and then head up to see if we can pick up on any tracks of either leopard or lion this morning. We also had tracks of wild dog yesterday, which would be a real treat. But otherwise, we stand a good chance of finding some elephants. There's been a lot of elephants around this area, and it would be nice to find a herd this morning. Now, I'm sure today is going to be a really, really hot day a little bit later on, so I think the animals would go have a drink early morning. Let's have a look at that beautiful sunrise. Now you can see at this point the tree line on the northern bank of the Timbavati is kind of keeping the sun away, and because of that there's still a lot of shade in the riverbed, and that's why it's quite a good area to be for an animal, especially a cat. Now, I always find it quite interesting to see the effects that the weather has on game viewing. One don't always realize it, but the weather is pretty much the major role player with any game viewing, actually. And the best thing about Ngala is the fact that we can drive the Timbavati riverbed. We have one track that we stick to, and there's always something along the banks, whether it be antelope, some kudu. And I haven't seen kudu in quite a while, actually. And lately we've been seeing a lot of southern ground hornbills around the Timbavati. So there's a lot to look out for. Now, the nice thing about the riverbed is the clear tracks one can see. Like, even if it's something like a leopard that moves very, very stealthily, you might be able to pick up some tracks coming across, and that's what we are bargaining on this morning.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Guys, just watch what's happening. See, watch the elephant, watch the lions. See, the first ones to run are the cubs. Can you see them? They are right here. I'm not sure how scared you were, but I was quite nervous. But absolutely incredible.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
So, back with a group of cheetah. Sorry, I just said cheetah, I heard it on the radio. With zebra. Just a little herd, but what drew us to them is the really sweet little foal that's staying very nearby to Mum. There it is. Look how cute it is. What I find amazing about these little foals is look at how its legs are almost as long as its mum. So like its stomach and its mother's stomach are kind of the same height. It's just its little body that's so tiny and has to do a whole lot more growing. And the reason for that, as I'm sure you can imagine, firstly is so that it can run fast. But secondly, it's just so that it makes it a little bit more difficult to pick out in the herd. So if there's a big herd of zebra, obviously this is just a little group of 5. If there's a bigger herd of zebra and they're all standing together, if you imagine looking through their legs, you wouldn't be able to see that there's a little foal in their midst. Because they're not they don't stick out lower than the bellies of the rest of the herd. But that was quite an interesting little interaction. I'm trying to see if that was the stallion who did that. He's looking quite unimpressed. He's got his ears back even as he's eating. He's got very don't look at me, or don't come near to me. See those ears back? If anyone rides horses, you'll know that that's a clear sign that the horse is not happy. It's not like the other zebra's ears are flipping back and forwards, just like normal flicking flies way, listening to everywhere around them, whereas this one has just got his ears right back, and it was the one that had a go at that mother. Just trying to look and see if it's a stallion or not. He doesn't look like he's got quite a thick neck, but I just want to have a look under his tail or between his back legs to make sure. And the reason I'm determined on finding out what sex it is it'll just help us to understand a little bit better what that little the next one over, so the one in the middle, the one on the zebra in question's right, is very pregnant, so we can tell straight away that that's a female. She's now behind this other one. I think those are 2 females, and I think that this must be the stallion here on the left. Yes, there we go. I see the testicles. That is the stallion. And then the very pregnant female. She's about to pop any minute. Or any day. Should be a bit more realistic. Lauren, zebra are pregnant for about a year. It's 375. So, yeah, and they come into season a couple of times a year. But there does seem to be, so they're not so tightly wound to, sweet, look at this little guy coming to check us out. Also quite interesting as we were talking about, if you look on this, sorry, I'll get back to the question now, but if you look at this little one's face, on the side of his cheeks there, he's got quite dark marks, and for some reason quite a lot of zebra foals tend to get mange when they're much younger, like this, but then as they get older they grow out of it. As you can see, all the rest of the zebra in this herd are very healthy looking. I don't know if maybe they just better at scratching it off or what the story is. I don't know why or how they managed to get rid of it, but they do. But you often will see little foals like that with those dark patches around their face. Oh, but he's sweet. Look at him nibbling on that little piece of grass. He's doing like the Lady and the Tramp down that. It looks like he's just sucking on it as well. He's not even chewing it off. And he's got his ears trained in our direction. Oh, that's too sweet. I actually think that we might stay here because I want to see if that stallion does anything more. And I'm really enjoying watching this little foal. But for now, we'll send you over to Lauren, who's got a herd of elephants for you.
We have came across a herd of elephants. Is that okay, Sai? Oh, look at all the youngsters. There's a tiny little baby there. A really, really small one, like playing with the other one. We can hardly see you. The grass is so long. The grass really is long. I know we probably all say that, but the vegetation is just so thick. There's some roads that we drive on that maybe haven't been driven on in a while, and it's very, very difficult to navigate them because the vegetation is just completely overgrown. And you can barely even see this little baby. They're just thoroughly enjoying their breakfast, or can you call it breakfast if you've been eating all night? Is it still breakfast? We had a bit of a disaster yesterday. The kitchen window got left open. And I think you can all guess what I'm going to say. Yes, the monkeys got inside. My goodness. They ate a lot of our food. Dear, oh dear. But hopefully there's enough left for us to have breakfast this morning. And this is exactly what the elephants want, long grass. Palatable species, of course, but it's so easy on them. It's a lot easier for them to break down. Although they have a poor digestive system anyway, the grass is a lot easier. It's easier on the sort of molars that they have. It's easier on the digestive process. I wonder if we'll get a view of that youngster if we just go backside. This might be the best that we're able to work with here. They're starting to move through the block. Kylie, they don't really ever leave mum's side, I guess. If you mean physically or just in general, females will stay within the herd. That's if the youngster is a female. They'll stay within the herd of all the other female adults and spend her entire life within the herd, never really leaving mum until she becomes a mum herself. However, if it's a male, then of course it's an entirely different life mapped out for you. You'll stay in the herd until about, it does depend, but roughly between 12 to 15 years. And once you start getting those symptoms of must and you start changing in your behaviour, you will be ousted. You will be made to leave the herd. If you mean physically leaving the mother's side, it's normally when they sort of get a little bit over 1 year old that they start to venture a little bit further from mum, but they can stay in milk up to 4 years. So they really never travel too far from mum. It's a very high level of investment, it's a high level of maternal care, 22 months gestation period, up to 4 years in milk. But they'll go into solids at about 6 months, but they'll keep drinking from mum. And therefore, they stay protected for a very long time. But the other mothers will also protect. The other mothers will also stand guard and keep a lookout. It doesn't just fall to the mother, and that's the beautiful benefit of life in a herd. Okay, I'm still continuing my venture west, but for now, we're going to send you back across to those cute, stripy baby zebra.
So we have stayed with this little zebra. He's walked over, he had a little drink from mum, but look, quite independent. Following the rest of the herd, leaving mum behind. Oops, something annoying him a little bit. Sweet man. There we go. He's heading into the bushes with the rest of the herd. But it was quite funny because, I mean, we were watching and we were just talking about how he's not doing a very good job of He's not doing a very good job of, you know, if you're walking away, taking big mouthfuls of grass up, and just you can actually kind of hear and see how much they're eating. Whereas that little one, as we witnessed, just sucking on that one blade of grass, and now he just kind of goes down and takes a few blades up every now and again. Not these big greedy mouthfuls that the others do. Oh, now he's heading off into the bushes. Let me see if we can get another view. He might run away. Sorry, don't be scared. Just see if there's another gap through. No, I think we might be a bit high up here. We might be a bit high up here.
No, we don't know. Sorry, Phinda. Now we're on search now. Possible for elephants this morning, still feeding around here. And then Tingana tracks was also seen walk across where we stay, probably last night. And the tracks looks nice, but you know, he actually walked towards quarantine, that area, Gary Dam. And then we got a guys there following up. So I'm gonna check this far a little bit because sometimes leopards does move, a lot of movement. Especially if he hasn't eaten enough. The bushes allow him to hunt like this, as you can see how thick it grass is tall and able to make their way in and out of this, join the road, go back to the grasses again, ambush for a spray. The all dry trees, but no presence of vulture that we can see about, because sometimes vulture can also indicate you if there is something died in the area. And we still hope that Lalamba, she must be still in the property. Yeah, indeed, it's so nice and green, everyone. It's beautiful, especially early in the morning like this. All you see in grass is still dew, wet grasses. So all you see, the old grass seed down the river stream over here. And this is why sometimes, you know, elephants love to come down to the stream river, even when it's midday, because then they benefit from, you know, soft grasses now this morning. As you can see, grass seed is still soaking wet. And you all see clearly seed, where most of the grasses will drop seeds right now in this time of year. And for that, rejuvenate the seed for the next summer. The growth of grasses will carry on again, which means the conservationists do very well there. Wherever you need to cut grasses, you can't just cut. You need to wait for the special season to make sure all grass is all dry enough, seeds are all shut down and off the the grasses, then you can cut wherever you need. So just because the next season there will be plenty of grasses, the seeds that remain on the ground, waiting for humidity, wet rain. Whereas in the winter and summer, so I'm gonna carry on, see if I find anything for everybody. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Yapi.
So we're still trying to see if we can find any tracks. We came out of the riverbed now, but no luck this far yet. There is, however, quite a lot of hyena tracks on the ground. Now, the hyena is probably the animal that is the most underrated when it comes to looking at its tracks and seeing what it's doing. Because we often just drive around, see hyena tracks and don't pay too much attention to it. But actually, hyenas are quite clever and they do pick up on the signs of other animals very, very well. Large predators like the lion, and they'll often track them down. So the movements of hyenas are actually something which I try not to ignore completely. Now, on this very road that we are at the moment, this is still within the vicinity of where the lion den is at the moment. And we definitely had tracks of a male lion at the den site. Didn't quite see where they went to, and it might have just been him coming down to lay down in the riverbed and then went back up onto the bank where the actual den site is. But there's good hunting areas nearby, and that's what we're gonna have a look out for. So all these hyenas coming from the side, we're not sure exactly what they were up to or where they're going, but normally when they forage, they spread out, they move one at a time, and that way they can cover larger distances. Even though they are clan members or animals that live in large groups, those groups we mainly see around the den sites and then also when they're feeding. Okay, that's a good question. What is a hyena's best sense? Now, I don't know specifically, but if I had to go with one, I'd say sense of smell. They have excellent hearing. They've got quite large, almost rounded ears. And then they've also got very good eyesight, especially after dark. So the hyena is not an animal that misses a lot, but in terms of their sense of smell, they can pick up on the faintest scent from far, far away. And you often find a hyena where they're just moving with their nose up in the air, following a scent in a certain direction, and that's the lead that they'll be following. Just want to have a look if we can see this impala. There's a male impala here. Whose face is covered in what seems to be quite a lot of flies. Just have a look at those flies crawling all across his face. That must be really, really irritating. Now, I've noticed lately, I've seen some of the males with a lot of flies in and around their face. Even some of them have started losing fur on the forehead and around the eyes. And have a look, the way he's standing at the moment, you can see the ears tilting in all directions, trying to pick up on any sounds, and he's also listening out to the rest of the herd spread out feeding. But where he's standing, he's actually looking at us. They usually look like they're not paying attention and completely disinterested in us, but they've got excellent peripheral vision, which helps them to spot movement from the corner of their eye or any possible predator that might be sneaking up on them from behind. Now, with regards to the flies, I know that usually once the day starts shortening, although it's a little bit early still, some of these larger impala males are already starting to stake out territories. And they do rub their faces and their heads constantly on branches, sometimes on the bark of trees, in areas nearby or around their territory. And what a good spot. Jerome, impala are super dangerous. No, I'm just joking. They're actually not dangerous. Well, at least not to us. They are quite strong, and I know they look small and they don't look like they have a lot to offer or protect themselves against predators. They're actually very, very agile. They're really strong. They often scare each other with their noises. They got very, very quick reactions. And a male like that has actually got a lot more going for him than it looks like. For a predator, even like a leopard, to be able to take down an impala, it really needs to know its story. It has to be quite strong and very, very quick. So stealth is the only way, really. It needs to get as close as possible and has to go with the perfect execution of when it actually grabs onto the impala and takes it down. Otherwise, the impala will get itself loose, and then also those horns. It's a real possibility of an injury. Now, I've seen some of these males fight before, and you can't believe how quick they move when they fight. And it's also nice to see there's a lot of little ones in this group here. Peter, the social structure of impala herds, that's actually something that we can see quite well here. Now, this time of the year, these babies, like that one there on the left, has been born around about November, December. Some of them are even still getting born this time of the year. And what's interesting about that is the little ones, the mother and the little one, will keep it separate for the first 2 weeks. And after about 2 weeks, she starts introducing them into the herd. And then they form what we call a creche, or like a nursery herd. The females are usually together. They stick together in herds or groups, which might vary. You do find that females occasionally wander over to other herds, especially the younger females, where older females might stick within an area, even though they're not related. And then males are with them. Young males up until about 3.5 to 4 years stay with the herd. And once they reach 4 to about 6, that's when they start competing for mating rights. So females are not territorial where the males are. And you'll often find one male with a large group of females. And that's not because they necessarily belong to him, it's just because they're moving within his territory. So the fight's actually for the space. A space like this, where this guy's standing at the moment, it's got good food, it's near the riverbed. There's shelters, there's also water nearby. And that's what the females seek out. So eventually when we start seeing the rut season, towards the end of April, when the days really start to get short, then he knows that the females will come through his area, and that gives him the chance to mate with the ones that's in heat, the ones that's old enough. And I've often watched them where they chase younger ones that's not in heat. Have a look at that Impala. She's getting some sunlight right on her body, but she's hiding her face from the sun in the shade. You can see that shiny coat. In her case, I'm sure it's a result of being groomed by the other ones as well. And they tend to be looking at the others and paying attention to the movements of the others quite a lot. You'll usually have a couple sticking quite close to each other, and then some of them might wander off to the sides to try and get something good to eat, which is where they'll be most at risk. Once they realize that they've wandered too far off from the herd, find that they try and get back into the central part of the herd. But these impalas don't look like they have any potential dangers nearby at this point, and they seem quite comfortable, so I think we're going to leave them and continue to look for those lions.
So now we stop here at the dam, Treehouse Dam, just to see if there is anything wanted to take a drink, or it's quite a beautiful day. Most of the antelopes, they would drink very much this time of the day. Until midday, those are diurnal animals. Cats, they can still drink day and at night. It's fine, no problem. Now what we see there, it's blacksmith laps wings as well, on its search for food. Those are also birds that you often see them around the watering hole. And these water pygmies, storks, so they are water bird. And the water itself provides a lot of a source of food for other birds, water birds, these worms will be about available for any of the storks. Those are Egyptian geese, is the vegetarian, which they don't mind. They feed on grasses, which also grow on the edge of the pond as well.
So we are, head up and all in all, just in time for you guys. He's been sleeping just flat cat. But apparently just before we got here, it's the one lioness and 2 cubs of about 10 months or 11 months old, and we are looking at one of the cubs. But unbelievably, I mean, it's a pretty open area that they're in. It's a dry watering hole. And those other 2 have just flopped down, just disappeared into this very thick, or I mean, it doesn't look thick. It actually looks quite thinned out. It's like these brown leafless bushes. And those other lions have just absolutely disappeared in there. I mean, those bushes can't be more than half a meter thick. And the other thing is that these lions have been missing. We haven't been able to find them for over a week. This whole pride has been, they've just been completely, we've been unable to find any tracks or anything. And now, looking at them in these bushes, it makes me think that the reason we couldn't find any tracks is because they haven't moved. They've just stayed in one place, completely concealed. I mean, if you drove past here and they were in those bushes, you wouldn't even imagine that the bushes were hiding lions. You'd just think, oh no, there are no lions here. But there we have it. I know next time to look more closely when we come past this watering hole. I think it must be quite a nice spot to settle, because you can see the one that we can see is out in it's on dirt, and then with the concealment of the bushes is quite an upgrade from just hiding in grass. Grass can be very itchy, and lots of flies and little insects and other stuff lives in grass and can be quite irritating. So to have the coolness and less irritating feel of the sand, as well as the concealment of the bushes, is quite a nice combination. Okay, I think that we might stay with these lions for a little while longer. I know it doesn't look like they're going to be getting up and moving at any point, but who knows, maybe. So we'll stay with them to see if that does happen. And while we do that, I think we'll send you over to Pridelands to say good morning to them.
Now, this is probably the most beautiful view that you'll see here at Pridelands Conservancy. It's, of course, the Drakensberg Mountains. I don't think any of the other reserves can compete with. And that's just because we're literally right outside Hoedspruit. It's just down in the valley. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Gert, and I can't see because the sun is blinding my eyes. But for it. And like I said, we're here at Pridelands, which is part of Tswalu Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger National Park. Now, what a glorious moment to just stop and have a look at the mountains. So I think before I carry on doing too much chattering, let's listen to the last of the dawn chorus. Isn't that beautiful? Of course, all the birds stopped chirping as I said that. But what you're looking at is the highest point of the northern Drakensberg Mountains. And so you might have seen a tall tower, and that is Maritzburg that we're looking at over there. And that is just shy of 2,000 meters above sea level, which is quite spectacular. The highest point of the Drakensberg is, of course, found in Lesotho. Sorry, I think I might have been having some audio issues there. Apologies for that. But this is so, so, so beautiful. And my break over Christmas, I was fortunate enough to go hiking in and around sort of this area. It is stunning, and it is so different to the vegetation that we find here at Pridelands. So when you get to the top of Mariepskop, you start to see sort of more grassland and even some elements of fynbos, which is super interesting considering that fynbos is typically found on the west coast of South Africa, and it's quite unique to that area. But there are some species. Even the bird life changes quite a bit, which is nice. And then as you start to descend, you get lovely sort of forests sort of creeping in between the crevices, and you can even see things like yellowwoods. But again, the bird life is just out of this world. I got to see olive woodpeckers, I heard a white-starred robin, plenty of Narina trogons, and lots of other forest birds that you might see. But what's made it particularly pretty today is this low-lying cloud that's going to burn away probably the next 20 minutes or so, as the sun is creeping quite high into the sky now. But this is just absolutely gorgeous. Wow. Well, we're going to snap a few pictures because this is a scene that we don't get to see too often, and off we go back across to the Sabi sand with Lauren.
I've crossed over onto Simbambili, and we came across quite a large herd of buffalo. It's been a really long time since I've seen buffalo. Now, I crossed over in order to get on the channel. We don't get good signal in the east or the west, which makes things very challenging, but from what I can gather, none of the three leopards, be it Nzutini, Kara and Shadulu, have been found this morning. So that means that Kara didn't stay up that marula on the kill. The kills, well, the bamba, as they call it here, did either fell or was finished. It was hyenas lurking around, of course. So I'm sure they'll find her, or at least they'll find one of those three leopards, but at the moment...
Come straight to Sydney's down for that.
I believe the Talamatis are also around, so I know some of you know the area, some of you don't, and that's absolutely fine. We're at One-Eyed Pan, which is very close to the western boundary. And the Talamatis, I believe, are very close to our northwest boundary at Sydney's Dam. So what I'm trying to say is the Talamatis are really not far away from the buffalo right now. Now, if they're sleeping, fine, but if they're mobile, they may be drawn to the buffalo. I don't actually think the Talamatis have fed on a large kill in quite some time. They went after a zebra the other night. It was pandemonium, but they were not successful. So they probably have killed something small, but a big kill like a buffalo or a zebra or a giraffe has not happened in quite some time. So although it's relatively quiet right now, buffalo herds like this are very loud. And you'll hear that sound. That sound will travel very far, and the Talamatis will definitely be able to hear it. They'll also be able to smell them. They smell just like cows. They smell just like organic dung smell that a cow has, but it's strong. And of course, a lion's sense of smell is very strong. I just wonder if this herd keeps moving east, they're going to pop out on our western boundary. And I think it would be really worth following them if the Talamatis are hungry. Although lions are primarily nocturnal, they will hunt during the day if they're hungry, absolutely. Cassidy, I don't even know the maximum number. I mean, I remember spending time in the Masai Mara with what we call mega herds. Extraordinary numbers of 500 plus. Now, I don't actually know the maximum carrying capacity. Normally, there's always a carrying capacity. But with buffalo, they're not territorial, they're gregarious. You will find either bachelor herds or breeding herds. And within the breeding herds, there's a hierarchy of males. But other than that, they're highly gregarious. It benefits them to be part of the herd. You have protection, more spotters around you, and Well, if there's 10 of you, you have 1 in 10 chance of being chosen by the lions. If there's 100 of you, you have 1 in 100 chance of being picked off by the lions. Buffaloes are always highly entertaining. But they are also equipped with excellent senses. You know, the predator-prey arms race. They are equipped with a great sort of visual sense, good sight, good hearing. And the hearing's slightly less developed than the sense of smell. Buffaloes have an incredible sense of smell, and they use that to find food, water, and detect predators. I just wonder what this morning could bring. I mean, they're not moving very fast, but they are moving east. There's lots of youngsters in this herd too. How long will buffalo reproduce in their lifetime? Buffalo can live up to 23 years. I'm not sure what you mean by how long, but normally a sort of what we call a daga boy, and that's the older boys. They've normally passed their reproductive peak from 10 to 12 years onwards. The females can continue to reproduce until they're very, very old. I think that was what you're referring to. I will only have 1 offspring at a time, and it's an 11-month gestation period, so it's almost a year. So again, it's a long level of investment. It's high maternal care, long pregnancy, produce precocial young, and only 1 at a time. But normally the daga boys reach their reproductive peak at around 10 to 12 years. They're just not territorial. Herds will move. The necessity is to find water and grass. So they will have a home range. All sort of species have a home range. And they'll move in familiar patterns within that to sort of avoid meeting other buffalo herds. And the home ranges may shrink or expand depending on resource availability. Of course, in summer it's naturally going to expand. In winter it may shrink. But other than that, they're not territorial. They move with what they call pathfinders. And pathfinders are specific individuals that determine the movement of the herds. And they're not necessarily dominant animals. It's not necessarily the dominant males that are the pathfinders. It's just, they just act like the leaders. They just take the lead and everyone else follows. So within a huge herd, within a mega herd, you can actually have sub-herds, believe it or not, because they're highly gregarious. Little sub-herds can join up to form a mega herd. And it's for the benefit of protection. So even each sub-herd will have a pathfinder. And the pathfinder will just be one individual that is helping to lead the herd. So that if the herd does split up due to different food choice or different threats approaching, it means they will always have a pathfinder, that one individual that's going to lead them. Okay, I'm going to sit with the buffalo and try to figure out where the talamatis are. And talking about lions, we're going to send you across to Phinda.
Welcome back. As you can see, not much has changed. We are hoping for, well, we're hoping for change. Seems that has a deeper meaning, but we won't get into it. But yeah, we're kind of hoping that like a herd of Impala or something might walk through here to just spark a little bit of movement from these guys, because they are lazy as hell at the moment. They might have had a busy night, and that busy night might have alerted all the other animals to the fact that there are lions here. And that is probably why we cannot see another single mammal in our vicinity. Just kidding, I can see some monkeys over there. Quite far away. But I don't think they can see the lions, otherwise they'd be making a racket. Still very, very beautiful though, looking around here. Mary, these lions are from the Ngala Pride, and that is the pride that we've been having some trouble locating over the last week or so. It's been quite tough. And it's these lions, so this female and her 2 cubs. Then there's another lioness who's apparently denning, so she's got some very little cubs. We're not sure how many yet because no one's seen them. And then there's a 3rd lioness who has the 4 sub-adult male lions. Sorry, 3 sub-adult male lions. Who we have showed on WildEarth a couple of times. I'm not sure if you were watching, or yeah, I'm sure some of our viewers will remember those 3 sub-adults. That makes up this pride, Ngala Pride, and then the 2 males, the 2 dominant males of the south of the reserve, the Ngala males, are the fathers of all of these youngsters, so these 2 and the 3 sub-adults, and also the new cubs. But those Ngala males are also dominant over the 2nd pride that's down in the south of the reserve, which is Mountain Pride. They live over the mountains, a little bit further to the east of where we are now. And they also are under the kind of guide of the Ngala males. I think at the moment those 2 male lions are actually over the hill checking up on Mountain Pride, making sure no other male lions are getting in on the action. Zay, we have quite a lot of lions on Phinda. It's one animal that we don't struggle very much to find, except obviously when Ngala Pride decides to hide in very small, very thick bushes. But generally we don't struggle to find lions. We've got a very healthy population of them here. And also with, I'm sure you realized with me explaining the dynamics of Ngala Pride, every single lioness has a litter of cubs at the moment of varying ages. So yeah, you can see that they're very successful, very happy in their environments and breeding and reproducing very well. Such a lovely, cool morning. I was really hoping that these guys would give us some moving around. And on top of that, I can't tell you, I feel like I always talk about the weather when I'm on WildEarth, but I do. It does change my moods quite dramatically. Like this morning, for example, it's so nice and cool, but it's still very clear. And we don't really get that very often in Phinda in summer. In summer, if it is clear, it is boiling. So it's so nice to have like light, a few clouds every now and again coming over, but still like really nice and cool, not sweating. It's really, really nice. Such a beautiful, and this is just such a beautiful area. We call this area Zuka West, and it's very, very different habitat to over the hill where Mountain Pride is. It's like these open grassy hills that you can see in the background, and it's just stunning. Like you can see for miles. It's also nice to spot animals because you can just scan for miles around with your binoculars. and find so much stuff. I mean, just from here I can see some vultures in a tree over there, some zebras, giraffe, impala. And again, just the beautiful noises as well. There's something so invigorating about looking at a beautiful scene with this beautiful background noise. When you're not sweating. Lisa, wow. Lions sleep for a very long time. I say they probably sleep for like 20 hours in a 24-hour day. They sleep a lot. And I'm sure if you watch WildEarth quite a lot, I'm sure that you will have noticed that quite a lot of the sightings of lions are of them sleeping. Obviously they do have other things to do, but those other things just consist of hunting and then maybe mating and maybe drinking. Maybe finding one another if they've split up, maybe finding the males, but there isn't really much else for them to do except for sleep. They're not like other animals who have to be on full alert, looking out for themselves, looking out for danger the whole time. So they sleep the whole time, and then when they get hungry, they wake up and they hunt. Yeah, so they definitely sleep more than they do anything else. And they sleep very well. I don't think that they have trouble sleeping. They don't really have like worries and stresses. Oh wow, there's a whole lot of vultures above us and in front of us. I think that they're all just getting stuck onto thermals in the air because they're not over a specific space. I was watching them quite far over there, and now they're coming over us. Beautiful. Let's see if we can identify what they are. I'm sure most of them will be white-backed vultures, but we'll see if there's anything else. So they'll just be flying around in their thermals, their hot air patches. And that's why they don't have to flap. They can just soar like that. Just with the tilting of their tails, they can choose which direction they want to soar in. It's minimal effort. For now, I'm just seeing white-backed vultures. But they'll be soaring around like that. Looking out. Oh, another lion's just put up its head. There was one there the whole time. That's the mother. That's the lioness. Can't believe how excited I got to see the back of a lion's head. But yeah, I mean, they probably were soaring off in front of us, to the north of us, where I first spotted them. And they probably spotted these lions and decided to come check it out and see if they didn't have a carcass nearby. And they've already actually all cleared off back to the north of us, where they were originally. So they probably came to just have a little inspection, and upon discovering that there's nothing for them to scavenge, they've gone back to what is probably a really beautiful air pocket, because they're soaring around and around, they're like spiraling, whereas when they came in here, they just came and then left. They're all heading back there now. I think that what we're going to do is carry on. Oh my God, I'm going to sneeze, sorry. We are going to carry on and try and find, I think there was some cheetah found last night, 2 male cheetah. I think that we are going to go and try and find those 2.
My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced, and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique WildEarth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with WildEarth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all WildEarth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
What makes andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
We've stayed in the exact same spot. Well, actually, we've repositioned, but the Talamatis are really not too far away, and that doesn't mean a hunt is going to happen right now, but it's good to follow the movement of this herd. It's good to know what direction they're going in, and I really haven't spent a lot of time with buffalo in a long time. We're looking at the African buffalo. And you can actually get 3 different subspecies of the African buffalo: Cape buffalo, the forest buffalo, and the Sudanese buffalo. Subspecies are the same species, but they've evolved just slightly different in order to meet their environment and habitat requirements. So, for example, with leopards, that's a really easy one to explain. The leopards here, the African leopard, is going to have adapted slightly different than, let's say, the Amur leopard that you find in the sort of border of Russia and China. Different environments, different climatic conditions, different habitats. So the same species biologically, but just with slightly different adaptations have separated geographically. So naturally, over time, long periods of time, changes will take place through natural selection in order for them to meet the requirements of the habitat. So each of the buffalo that I just described, the 3 subspecies, have their own sort of geographical distribution and physical characteristics. They're not going to look the same. And over time, over really, really long periods of time, when the animals are still evolving, you will find that they could eventually end up splitting into 2 separate species because they've changed so much that maybe genetically they're not the same anymore. And that's possibly what happened with giraffes. But I'm not talking about short periods of time. I love the sounds of a buffalo herd. I love being in the middle of a buffalo herd. The only thing that might work against us today is the heat. It's already getting remarkably hot. and that could work against us. It could mean that buffalo go flat. It could also mean that lions go flat. But we're not too far from one-eyed Pan. It's not the biggest pan in the world, but it could maybe fit in a handful of buffalo. Brent, all they're really using their tail for is a fly spotter. You can see this one right here. Look, swoosh, swoosh, keeping all those nasty flies and insects and anything from getting to the precious genitalia. They've really got to protect that area. Otherwise, well, it's not going to be pleasant. Of course, flies will be attracted to the rear end of an animal. Of course they will be. And it's just a fly spotter, really. Tails have different functions in the animal kingdom. And humans are one of the few animals that really don't have tails, but we do have that tail bone, the coccyx. And it can be used in communication, can be used as a fly swatter, as most tails are used for. And it can also be used to help swim, if you think of fish. And it can also be used to sort of act as a rudder or balance for an animal that maybe climbs trees. So it really depends on what organism you're looking at. But for buffalo, it's really just a fly swatter. They don't need it to balance. Buffalo are really not climbing a tree. If you ever see a buffalo climbing a tree, please do let me know. But otherwise, they're not using it to swim. They don't really use it to communicate. And that's why it's so short. As long as it's long enough to do the job. Any longer, you would probably find that because they're so gregarious and they live in such a large herd, that their tails will just get trampled on. They trample all over one another sometimes. They stay very tightly packed, buffalo, and you would just find if it was any longer and it was trailing on the ground, it would probably get trampled on. It's so peaceful watching them. I don't know why I enjoy buffalo sightings. RJ, they're already equipped with everything they need. If you look at their size, I mean, they're huge. They are really large animals. They've got a lot of power behind them, a lot more than a lion. And B, look at the horns. They're already equipped with weapons on their heads. I mean, males can run at one another and smash their horn bosses against one another. And it almost acts like a helmet, if you like. The females do not run into one another and try to smack their helmets together. But males do. And between the two males, if they actually decide to have a dispute for who's more dominant and they decide to resort to head-on clashes using their horn bosses, the impact is absorbed by that boss, and the boss is the part on the middle of the head. The horns are what extends outwards, and they liken the head-on collisions to a car hitting a wall, a brick wall at 50 kilometers per hour. That's what they liken it to. And yet the male buffaloes can handle that. They're equipped. The impact is absorbed by the horn bosses. So they're already equipped for all of this. And see, they've got great numbers. So if lions were to appear in front of us right now, they would gather together, try and protect their young, and try. I have seen buffalo chase off lions a lot. But of course, more often than not, the predator wins. So that's how they would try to defend themselves. Gather together, horns, and they're already equipped with size. But I've seen many examples of buffalo also chasing off lions, and buffaloes throwing lions in the air, so they do stand up for themselves, but not always. of course. Once the lions pick off one from the herd, be it a youngster, be it a slow-coach straggler at the back, be it an injured one, normally once they've got their target, they're more often successful than not. Okay, I am going to stay here just a little bit longer, but for now we're going to send you across to Phinda and their rhino.
Just as we were talking about how beautiful all the scenery is and scanning the hills to look for animals, we were doing just that and found 5 white rhinos. Oh wow, look at that. And they actually like fighting. That's really cool. From this distance, it's going to be pretty difficult to tell whether they're males and females or young or old. Wow. Look at all that dust rising. It's so dramatic. What it looks like to me is that one on the far right watching the fight looks like a youngster. And one of those ones fighting looks like it might be the mother. Oh my gosh, this is insane. And I don't know who the third party would be, that other one that's fighting, or the second one in the fight. It could be another calf that's trying to get involved in that family situation, and the mother's not having it. The reason I say that is because I think that the one looks a little bit smaller than the other. I think the bigger one of the two is the mother of that calf. Wow. So interesting, because rhinos are, white rhinos especially, are such like calm animals, and you often see them existing in groups of about this number quite happily together. That younger one looks like he's kind of winning. Our third one's joining in, getting chased away by Mum. Might be like a young bull, because he's not fully grown, that one who's fighting with the female, with the mother. Might be a young bull who's just kind of throwing his weight around a bit. See how he's following the female? And she's got her tail curled up, which is a sign of agitation, showing that she's not impressed with how she's being treated. And he's really not giving in, he's following her around. I suspect he's probably been doing this for a while, and maybe she just got a bit fed up with it and decided to vent her frustrations, but now she's settled down again, but he's not giving up. Yeah, it looks like quite a disgruntled household over there. Everyone's a little bit feeling a bit, what's the word, insecure. There's a bit of tension in the ranks. James, you're right. It is very, very cool to observe rhino behavior like this because, I mean, even though I think that if we were closer, we'd still be able to observe it, but from this distance, it's just, you know, they're completely unaware of our presence, and they are going about completely as if we weren't here because they just, we're pretty far away. So you're right, it's very, very cool to just be like a fly on the wall in nature and observe these awesome interactions. I do kind of wish, though, that I could get a bit closer just so that I knew exactly, well, I suppose we'll never know exactly what's going on, but just if I knew the sexes of those two that are fighting, it would help us to better understand what's going on up there, but from this distance we can only guess. But like I said, I think that the options are either it's a young male who's being a little bit overly bold, or another calf that's trying to be involved in this group, and the mother's not interested in having him in the group. Yeah, and the only reason I say and think that the biggest one is a female and not a bull is because of the way that they're acting, that younger one following her around. If it was the reverse, if the biggest one was a bull, then he would be the one following the smaller one around. So that's what makes me believe that that's almost definitely a cow. Oh, and then just in front of us are some buffaloes walking down the road. Luke, rhinos can get very heavy. I think that a rhino bull can get to 1,800 kgs, so almost 2 tons. It's very heavy. And there are some buffalo bulls walking down the road towards us. How cool is that? We just drive away from the lions, find some rhinos, and then find some buffalo. I think that those 3 bulls are the back of a herd. I only say that because we heard on the radio that there is a herd in this area. So talking about weight, buffaloes can get to about 700 kgs, the bulls. I mean, that's also pretty heavy. They're quite large animals. I'm just looking in my book and it says the white rhino can actually get to 2,300 kgs, so that's huge. Very, very cool. Very, very big animals that we're dealing with here in the African bush. We'll send you over to another one of those big animals with Andrew.
Thank you very much, Kim. So we now sitting here with one of our walker male and chilling. Looks like he's breathing heavily, though. Probably because of a full tummy. And this is actually not far away from where Lauren is with the buffalo. It's just across the border. We in Bebusuk, close to Gary Gate. So he's probably eaten. We're not sure what it was. And the tracks of old Dalamati the bride also was seen around here, but nobody found them. So they're probably close to the buffalo there, and then he's left behind. Look at his eyes. So Michelle, you say you love his mane. He's got an actually gorgeous mane. Beautiful, thick mane. Looks like he just heard us now when he was just looking at us. So yeah, he's got a very beautiful mane. He's got a problem with some flies. So Bruce, you're asking how can we tell the age of a lion? When they're younger, you could tell by looking at their size, but it helps also if these lions grow around where you are. Those then you're able to see their growth up. But of Walker males we're looking at right now, they get around here when they were 5 years old. And since they've been around here, it's been over 4 years, 5 years. So they're probably around, estimated somewhere, maybe 10, 11 years. Between there. So roughly looking at, especially male, the size of an animal, their coat. You know, they fight too much sometimes. The face is kind of like maybe a lot of scratches. But the coat for the animal, we're able to at least give details of an estimate age of that animal. So he's breathing heavily. As you can see, the tummy is a little bit expand here. There's probably been a lot going on last night, because the buffalo came from these directions, corner of Manyaleti and the Gary Gate. But doesn't mean that maybe it was a buffalo that he's eaten, probably something else he stole from the girls, from the females. Bride. So Trevor, you're asking what is the lifespan on lions? So now we're looking at the animals in the wild on the environmental. So in the wild, estimated anything, males are live shorter lifespan, so 10, roughly 13, sometimes die even age of 9 or before 8 years old due to a challenge of fighting, which is also the same with the females. There's a chance that they sometimes die of probably disease take places, but they tend to live then longer than the males if there is not much of a challenge like that happened. Can get up to maybe 16, where in the cage line can get up to maybe 18 years upwards, where they've been well taken care of then. Might sometimes able to move around, but they still have a little bit of a shade, as you can see, just a bit of a shade. It's not much. So you won't move far in this case. It was just gonna probably maybe find another shade, lie down for the whole day, I think. You'll be lying around here. Wayne, so you're asking how big is the territory of a lion? Here, we don't have, we have two pride for now that's running in and out, where they share territory between. So, a coalition of male, which is these males, normally 3 of them. Occupancy of territory can be anything from 50 square kilometers, 40 square kilometers, somewhere roughly there. But if then it's so many of male coalition in the area, then that can be limited. So then everybody, or amongst some of the species will be able to avoid one another's territory. But they have to have the territory of their own. Just a bird that's probably calling in the background. I'll try and have a look if I can actually able to see it, but it's one of the francolin that is giving a alarm call because of the big cat that is lying here. So I'm gonna stay put here to see if this male will be able to do anything for us.
Now we're on one of the worst roads, I'm afraid, so please bear with me. Excuse the power lines and the bumpiness. This is Triple M, our western boundary, and it's, yes, the boundary lines are not easy to drive, but they're also necessary. You have a lot of traffic, but if you get there early enough, you're able to see who crosses out and who crosses in by looking at the tracks. So apologies for this road. We left the buffalo, we had to, I'm afraid. The sighting got really busy really quickly. Buffalo are, of course, listed as part of the Big Five. Now, the Big Five is a term that I try not to use because it stems from a hunting term. Lions, leopards, elephant, rhino and buffalo. And it used to refer to the big sort of animals out here that you could hunt and tick off your list. But now it's actually evolved and it's been a really positive evolution as it's sort of been adopted by ecotourism and sustainable tourism. And now the Big Five refers to the species that you want to see, the best five. And there's the Big Five, there's a Little Five in Africa, there's now the Big Five in different oceans, the Little Five in the oceans, there's now the Big Five in terms of raptors, or the Big Three out here at least. So the term sort of evolved over time from what used to be pretty negative to something, I would say, quite positive. And now people come here looking for the Big Five, but it's not for hunting. It's just to see, it's just to tick them off their wish list. So there's big and little and medium-sized fives all over, including the ocean as well now, depending on which ocean and which area of the world you're actually going to. So we're back on Djuma now. Oops. Let's see what we can find.
So we've followed tracks of the whole lion pride that we picked up near the riverbed. And they've come to these floodplains. It's a massive, relatively clear area with stands of knobthorn. And unfortunately, the pride's tracks crossed out, but luckily we've got to find two male impalas. It's been quite entertaining. There's been a little bit of a tension going on between these two. And if you look at the way that impala's ears are flicking, you can see he's almost hitting himself in the eye with it. And you can see the funicular reflex. I think these animals are pestered by flies heavily in these areas. This is in most of the parts we've been driving over the last few days, and the soils here are very high in nutrients and minerals. The vegetation is slightly different. So the clearings of grasses here are the good grasses that all the general game go after. Hello. There are quite a lot of plants that's not edible for animals. I know one in particular that we find in this area is poison bride's bush. But there are, I don't know them all, unfortunately. But there are quite a few. I know some animals, especially even this impala, being a ruminant, they do suffer from a condition called tannin poisoning. Now, tannins is the chemical used to protect their leaves from being eaten, and very high amounts of that can also lead to animals dying, or ruminants specifically. Kudu impala. Kudu browse, they mainly eat leaves, where the impala eat both leaves and grass. And you can see it's quite warm at the moment, and that's why these impalas have moved over into the shade. I'm sure between these two, they are actually trying to stake out space in this well sought after area. You can see both facing different directions. Now, we often find that the animals just stand, like this impala is doing at this very moment. You can see the ears pushed forward in a direction. a sound drew its attention. So when they're still like this, they're actually listening out. And they're constantly using all of their senses. We often think that it's only their eyesight, which their eyesight is very keen, but hearing and the sense of smell plays a major role in these animals' lives. In terms of communication, as well as a means of being prepared for possible danger. Now these two, they look like younger male Impala, so they've probably not been in the ranks to compete for mating rights in these areas for too long. Generally, they don't look too nervous. I think the lions might have passed here quite a while ago. Unfortunately, though, it's heavily waterlogged after the heavy rains. And even though the rain was about 3 days ago, I don't think we'll be able to drive this area yet. It's amazing how long it takes to dry out. So everywhere there's these seasonal pans, mud wallows. There's also smaller creatures like frogs. But I think we'll continue, maybe go look for signs of anything else, and then send you over to Lauren with an elephant.
We have found a lone elephant. Looks like a young one, a young bull. Definitely not a big, older bull. It's a youngster here. And I don't see any other elephants. So you must just be traveling alone. Short tusks. Eating the grass. Every single elephant in the entire Sabi Sands right now is thoroughly enjoying the long grass. It's never ending. Elephants often appear a lot less stressed in the summer. They've not got that added pressure of lack of resources. And their behaviour slightly changes. No competition, no stress. You see where you just had his trunk there? That's the actual ear hole that leads into the inner ear. And they often scratch that or touch that with their trunk. I think it must get itchy after a while. They've got those huge sort of ear lobes, if you like. But then in the inner part, you will find the hole that leads to the inner ear. Now, Andrew obviously had, I believe it was dark mane. I know that he's got a male lion. And the rest of the pride are somewhere. So everyone's, of course, getting a little bit anxious. Buffaloes and lions not too far from one another, but the lineup for the buffalo was just too big. So we've left for now, see what else we can find. But we may return to that area a little bit later on in the drive. I wonder if this young bull's just recently started his life as a nomad. Sometimes when they're first ousted, they'll still follow the herd, but just from very far away. They'll hang back, but they'll still follow the herd of the females. They, of course, lead the way from grass to water resources. So although the male's been ousted, he may still see the herd and hear them. They've got their own private communication channel, and he'll still follow their paths in order to learn how to navigate a life on his own. The best thing a young bull can do is join up with a gentleman, join up with an older bull and learn from him. His role is just as integral as the matriarch. But for the boys, of course. You see how they shake the grass like that, getting rid of any insects or dirt or dust or anything that's clinging to the grass. They give it a good shake before they put it in their mouth. Many of you are saying you could watch elephants all day. Me too. Especially ones that are as peaceful as this. They just walk, rest, feed. Walk, rest, feed. Bulk feeders is all about quantity over quality. Eat, 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 eat. And that's because their digestive system really is poor. Now, there's actually a lot of images online right now from an elephant in the West. And Simon, if you're able to just zoom in on this part of this male, this part of the trunk right here, she's actually missing. She has a huge, huge hole in her head. And it goes right through. I don't quite know what's happened. It doesn't look like it's healed. It looks like it's healing. And when she drinks water through her, or when she sucks up water, through her trunk, getting ready to pour it into her mouth, the water pours out through the hole. It's circulating on social media, and I believe this female is regularly seen, easy to identify, of course, and seen in the West. It's fascinating. Sad, but she's surviving. But water does come out of that massive hole in her trunk. Animals are so resilient. There's no choice but to just get on with it. Humans, we mope, we moan, we take medicines. Can't do that here. You've just got to get on with it. Survival of the fittest. Oh, Jared, I didn't get that name, but you see, one of the most majestic animals to walk planet Earth. I agree. Great big pachyderms. So large. I still believe there's a lot we've to learn about elephants. I mean, there's some great studies, a lot of science, a lot of research projects and programs that have been following the same herds for years. And I still think there's a lot we need to learn about them. Their social dynamics are very complicated. And because humans are so visual, we tend to learn by observations, by watching, but we're missing out on a lot just by watching. We can't hear them. We can't hear this private infrasound channel. We can't feel the vibrations that they're feeling through the specialized cells in their toes. We're completely oblivious to all of that. And even with technology, that can only get us so far. Yes, it might allow us to hear those sounds, but then what? What do the sounds mean? What are the elephants saying to one another? And we read body language, but sometimes we also put a human perspective on that. because we are so visual and we read one another's body language, that we see an animal behaving in a particular way and we think, that animal must be upset. But you're thinking that because you're taking it from a human perspective. And that's just natural. Of course we're going to look at everything from a human perspective. We're humans. It's not a criticism. We should just always be aware that there's a lot we're not seeing, there's a lot we're not hearing. There's a species of fish, and this might sound rather random, but when you sort of thinking of the animal kingdom, it's really important that you always recognize individuals of your own species. Always. And there was sort of confusion over this species of fish. And it's a reef fish. And basically they look almost identical. Completely identical. And yet somehow it was I'm trying to remember the species. Why has this slipped my brain? Damselfish, that's it. So you've got the andBeyond damselfish and the lemon damselfish. They're both very small little coral reef fish. Look identical to the human eye. Obviously, when you dissect them and you analyze them, there's two separate species. It's in the western Pacific Ocean. Now, the andBeyond, they defend territories really, really vigorously. They're very aggressive. They'll even bite divers, or sort of keeping out members of their own species. But how do they know, that's an andBeyond, that's my own species, that's a lemon? Because to the human eye, it looks absolutely identical. And with lots of sort of investigating, it turns out that each of the two species, the andBeyond damselfish and the lemon damselfish, actually have completely different facial patterns, only visible in the UV light spectrum. We cannot see it, but they can. And when you do shine UV light on it, they look completely different. They don't look similar. So the individual fish themselves can immediately see it. This is an andBeyond, this is my enemy. This is a lemon, not the enemy. So they have attractive patterns, very, very unique to each species. And that's how they recognize their own. That's how they recognize their own species. Every species has to be able to recognize their own. But we were completely oblivious to that as humans because we cannot see it. It's only when we shine UV light that it opened up this whole other world that actually these two species are different, and we just didn't realize that. And most fish are tetrachromatic anyway, and that allows them to see colors way more vividly than we do. We are trichromatic creatures. We only possess 3 types of cone cells. So our color spectrum is actually very limited. So I know we're looking at an elephant here, but my point was that there's so much that we miss as humans in our sensory world, in our Umwelt. Okay, so from one great big grey animal, we're going to send you another at Phinda.
As you say that. We found some more white rhinos. It was another group of, I think it was actually, is it 5 or 6? 5 or 6 rhinos. And as we came around, there was some quite interesting interactions going on. There were these like bellows. And I think what's happened here, seems all the rhinos are rather aggressive this morning, but yeah, they're all kind of walking away now. We can't really see them too well, just their backs. But it looked like it was a cow and her calf, and then 3 rhino bulls all hassling her. And there was quite a bit of vocalization, quite a bit of aggressive vocalization between 2 of the bulls. One definitely had the upper hand, and he was kind of standing up against the female and the calf and bellowing at the other one. He kind of had his mouth open, ears back, and was making a good old snarling, grumbling noise at the other one. But this one hasn't given up. He's still got his tail curled up, which I pointed out earlier as a sign of agitation. All 3 of the bulls actually have their tails up like that. Looks like he's not giving up yet, though. I think I might try and move forward a little bit, but I don't think that we're going to see them again. Maybe just their backs. Let's try. No. Unfortunately, I think not. You can see some marula trees. You can see the back of one with his curled up tail, but they're all heading up over the hill. Okay. Apparently there's an elephant bull quite nearby, so we are going to leave these rhinos and head over towards him. While we're doing that, we're going to send you to Andrew.
So now we have left the line there due to the whole station wanted to respond. And now we're just going to be taking time looking around, and there was a leopard tracks that was seen here. Guys still following up on foot, but yet nothing picked up, so we are assisting here just to see if the tracks lead further east this way. It looks like the tracks came from the west, Mambila then. And then could be maybe another male, maybe possible Hukumuri or another male in the area. And it's getting slightly warm, for sure. But the animals, like leopards, desperately moving around. Those are hungry still. They get actually pushed by the energy that they can still do movement quite a lot. And also the wild dogs from last night, they have crossed into Aratusa. Got an update. So not far from Trampolim, the boundary, western boundary there, so. So Mali asking what disease do leopards suffer from? Cats mainly suffer from mange. Is one of the serious diseases on cats, and even they sometimes infect by any of these TB, which is transferred from the game they're eating. If they ever eaten meat, that is, it's got a disease in that they're easily infected from there. So we're just making room for one of the car. Right, pass by. But in the area here, none of our leopard seek. They're all healthy looking. Many of them, they're actually taken down by their old age. So I'm gonna be sending you over Phinda, and then I'm gonna be searching around here, see if I get luck.
Okay, we have got a black-chested snake eagle. He's quite far away now. I did try and just race to get a bit closer for you guys. But he is on the hunt. I think if we can keep up with him, we might see something pretty cool. Because he keeps flying and then stopping and hovering, which is typical hunting behavior for a snake eagle. So he'll fly and then stop. But he's quite far away at the moment. There, he stopped again. He's just hovering. So he's definitely looking for something. He'll fly and then he'll kind of like circle an area, then stop and hover. And that hovering without flapping of the wings, just staying perfectly still in one. Oh, it looks like there's a second one right next to him. How cool is that? Oh, they're very far now. Yeah, he's hovering again. And there's another one hovering right next to him. That is so cool. So they'll be waiting to see, or just they'll be hovering there, looking for snakes or lizards. Oh, excuse me, there's that sneeze I've been waiting for all morning. Really, really beautiful though, watching them soar around with that awesome sky behind them, the clouds and stuff. But they are going further and further away. Okay, I think the eagle's getting further and further away. We're going to carry on to the elephant that we are on our way to. While we're doing that, we'll send you to Lauren, who's got some giraffe.
Good luck, Kim. Tingana's been found deep in the drainage. He's got a malabamba, which means he has killed an impala. Don't believe it's hoisted, but it's in a very difficult drainage line, so the sighting has been put to a one-vehicle lock because of the rains, and off-roading is still not 100% okay in all areas. So in order to protect the ground, protect the soil, protect the structural integrity of the landscape, it's a one-vehicle lock. But we're in the lineup, and while waiting, we found the giraffe. I mean, they're hard to miss, but believe it or not, you do miss them. And going back to colour vision, I thought I'd throw a random fact of the day at you all. You're welcome to debate this. But in 2014, they actually discovered evidence of rods and cones in a fossilised shark creature that lived around 300 million years ago. Now, shark skeletons are made from cartilage, which is the same material that's in our ears and the ends of our nose and our joints. They act as shock absorbers. Cartilage is incredible. It's flexible, it's lightweight, doesn't weigh you down, and it's very resistant to disease. So for sharks and rays, it's ideal. But it's not bone. It biodegrades. You will not find skeletons. That's why we don't see shark skeletons. We don't see manta ray skeletons, because they wear down. They don't preserve like bone does. So that's why it's quite difficult to get into the history of sharks. But this fossilized shark creature that lived around 300 million years ago, they actually concluded from studying the rods and cones that colour vision was invented underwater due to this one fossilised creature. And in the ages since, fish have actually evolved visual capacities way beyond ours, and that goes back to what I was saying. Fish are actually tetrachromatic and we are trichromatic. They are one step ahead of us. So they say that colour vision actually started underwater. Not all animals, not all organisms see in the same spectrum of light, because they don't have to. We see what we need to see. Giraffes, of course, have excellent vision. They have excellent long-distance vision because they're so tall. They act as like the lighthouse. They can see everything happening around them. So sometimes it's really important to pay attention to a giraffe. They may not alarm call like Impala, but watch their behaviour, because they can see things that we can't because of their height and their excellent vision. They do see in colour, and their eyes are actually said to be among the largest, not the largest, but among the largest of terrestrial mammals. And I don't just mean the size, I also mean in relation to the skull. If you look at elephants' eyes, it's very similar to the same size as a human's. And look at that huge skull. It's not in proportion. automatically tells you elephants do not rely on their vision. They can see, yes, but that's not their primary sense. Look at a giraffe and their eyes are very, very large. So they do see in colour and over great distances. But if you look at the positioning of a giraffe's eyes, it's not binocular. It's not forward-facing like ours with a small gap in the middle. The eyes are positioned on the side of the head. So this gives them peripheral vision. They can't see 360 degrees, but almost. They can see in the periphery. They can see behind them. So almost like a wide angle. You put a wide angle on your camera, put 2 wide angles on the side of your head, and they get a sort of full view of what's going on around them. Vision is fascinating. There's some creatures that don't need to see at all. You get the eyeless tick. Doesn't need to see. Just spends his life waiting on its host to walk by and uses his chemoreceptors to sort of taste and smell its way to its host. You get fish that live in caves underwater. It's completely dark. There will never be light in a cave. So they don't need to see. Why have eyes? Why evolve eyes when you don't need to see? Okay, so as I mentioned, we're in a lineup. I'm going to get on this radio and hopefully we'll be able to see Mr. Tungana soon.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily. An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. WildEarth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, WildEarth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. WildEarth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Why is the Mara special? It's one of the only few places that you can find the annual wildebeest migration. I will still go for the lion. The main reason is a sign of royalty, leadership in my tribe, and apart from that, over here, it is feared by all but loved by everyone.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
We found this elephant that we came looking for. It's a lone bull. And just as he came over to us, he decided to put his head inside of that bush that's in front of him. I do apologize, but I'm sure if we sit here, he will bring his head out of that bush. But you can see the shine of mud on his back, and he's just come from a very nearby watering hole, where you can see that he's had quite a good time covering himself in mud. It's all on the back of his knees, up on his back, and even his tusk you can see is completely brown, covered in mud. And he's come here and he was also kind of dust bathing a bit. Also probably just trying to cool himself down, maybe trying to get that dust stuck into the mud just to add to the material on his back that he'll later rub off. Here he is. Yeah, let's just walk through the tree instead of around it. Classic elephant mentality. Oh, I bet he's going to go and feed right behind that bush now. That's exactly what he's doing. I know, he's moving through. Gizmo, the reason for that is elephant bulls will be kicked out of the herd in their kind of teenage years because they can be quite boisterous, and elephant herds, all the social dynamics surrounding elephant herds are based on looking after the youngsters, so the younger elephants, and having boisterous young elephant bulls doesn't kind of play along with that aim of keeping the youngsters safe. So those bulls get kicked out of the herd and then they go off by themselves. Sometimes they'll be in groups of bachelor herds, but generally it'll be just by themselves, as you can see this one is. But they do move in and out of those bachelor herds as well. They're not fixed. I've seen this particular elephant with other elephant bulls. And it just depends on their, I won't say mood, but their kind of hormones, because elephant bulls go in and out of states of must, which is actually a 16-week process. Isn't quite the right word, but state, I guess. And in that case, they often are alone. When they're not in must, they'll be with the elephant bull or the other bachelor herd. Sorry, my vehicle doesn't want to start. And then when they come into must, they want to mate. And they will then go and find an elephant herd to try and mate with the cows of that herd. There we go. This male does seem to be, he's a little bit edgy. You saw how when he walked off, he kind of had that big head bobbing movement, which means he's not completely chilled. It might be that he's kind of coming into that state of must, and he will then be looking for a herd to go and harass. If he was maybe not coming into must, then he might have been in that bachelor herd that we were talking about. I'm just going to go very slowly to find him again, because I don't want to suddenly come around the corner and he's decided to stop and feed on a bush anywhere too close to where we happen upon him. There he is. He's walking off the road a little bit. I'm just going to slowly... It's quite tough to tell as well, because the other way you tell if an elephant is in must is you look between the back legs to see if he's dribbling urine and fluid from his penis. And I can see it is a little bit wet there between his back legs, but because we know that he has come from a watering hole, it looks like it might just be a bit of mud because he has got it all over his belly. I hope you didn't hear that. My stomach just rumbled. Okay, we might try to get another view of the sky, but while we do, I think we'll send you to Lauren with her hippos.
We're on Gowrie Dam Wall, admiring the resident hippo, who I think is snoozing quite soundly. Oh, he's blinking. Heavy eyes. That's how I feel most nights here in the bush. Can't keep my eyes open. And on the other side of us, down the sort of dam wall into the drainage, that's where Tingana is. He's been there all morning. We saw him. We know he was on a dam cam. But the problem's been the fact that off-roading has been a bit of a difficult scenario. Some roads are incredibly waterlogged. Now, when you position yourself at the top of the Katina, water naturally drains down. So on areas that are high, it's fine. It's absolutely fine to off-road there. We got permission to do it yesterday. But when you get down a little bit lower into drainage lines and seep lines, that's your problem issue. That's where the water is going to collect and the sort of soil itself is going to become very waterlogged. Now, you're welcome to drive it. There's just a chance you might never come back out again. You're going to get very stuck. Not only do you not want to get stuck, you don't want to damage the land. So one vehicle was allowed to search this morning. That's how it works here. And they found him. So he's there. We're just all taking it in turns to go there. The Mulwati is still not drivable. We had a little look yesterday. It's not that there's a green light or a red light. We just have to keep checking. Our vehicle did the test last week and we actually found Tlalamba. Can you believe it? We just found her doing a test of the Mulwati. And our vehicle was okay because it's a little bit special. But the other vehicles wouldn't make it. And then we received more water. So the Mulwati is still out of bounds. It's very important they protect your land. Everything is held together. It may not look like it, but the perfect example is the Maldives, an island nation. Their protection, the protection for these small... Simon, I think we have possibly a dwarf bittern down here. If you look at this dead knobthorn, just to the right of the fork here, somewhere, is a bird. I think this is a juvenile dwarf bittern that I've been trying to get on camera. Hello. You're caught now. I'm sure it's the bittern, closely related to herons. They've got that stripy chest, and the adults normally have a red eye. That's what confused me. You normally look for the red eye. They've got very long, bizarre necks. But the juvenile has, the immature bird, juvenile's not the wrong word, has a black eye, and I think that's what we're looking at. I love these birds. They're not common. They're an intra-African breeding migrant, so they come here to breed, as do many of the birds around here. And they love water bodies, floodplains, wetlands. They'll hunt frogs, fish, aquatic insects, any sort of food source that you will find around the water hole. It's so lovely. I've been seeing one. Oh, off we go. So just to round up my thought then, the Maldives is a perfect example. Island nation, their protection of the island is the coral reef that surrounds it. And I will come back to that point, but it looks like Andrew's found some elephants.
Right, so we got a beautiful young male elephant here. And he's feeding on the silver terminalia tree, which is, he just loves it so much. It's the only tree since we got here. He spent time in it. Maybe just probably enjoying these little pods. Only this time of year, these trees. See a lot of pods in it. It's probably still separated from the rest of the group of females. At this stage, you will be then joining the other young bull around here. Or older bulls. Associate with them, form a group of bachelor males. scratching his eye. The trunk, it's so important on the elephants. Use them that way, able to grab anything they could, branches, grasses. So Natasha asking how much do elephant bull eat a day? So these full-grown male eat from anything 250, 300 kilogram. These massive bull elephants around here. Oh. See how he does with a tusk. Like I said, he loves this bush. You see how we actually break it down. And the whole branches, the whole down, all the whole piece of trees down. And do that with the tuskers. That's why sometimes they lose their tuskers by doing that. Some trees can be strong enough until they lost their tuskers. It's so important they would use their forehead to push that tree when they don't have a tusker though. Not actually communicating any of the sound that he's now making, not at all. Usually when they do that is when they need to reconnect with other group members. And the low field is always great for the elephants because they were able to access through the bushes, still get enough of the food, even in the winter. And that trunk of elephants can at least hold an amount of 16, depending on the size of the animal, liters of water at a time. He sucks the water. Put in the mouth. It looks like it's going to be one of these hot days today. We're also asking if the male and the female would go into an estrus, while also the bulls on must. And not sometimes it go opposite way, where the bull can be on must and then none of the female that is on hit. So, you know, that male has to move a lot enough to find other different females that are in the area. But you find maybe none that is actually on heat. So that must situation sometimes it goes disappear probably after 4 days, 5 days, and then 3 weeks later it comes back. Pushes that bull to again focus on finding the exes or the females already. Same with the females. Not always that they're all in heat. The female, she comes on heat for at least 4 or 5 days, and then it all just goes disappeared again. She comes normal, and it will rise again maybe a week later. Tuskers comes with a weapon, but at the same time it supports the trunk for feeding, break off piece of trees, branches. Look there, it's got a very much equal length of these tusks, so maybe use them both. With some elephants, they can be right-handed or left-handed. Probably going to be done with a tree. So we're going to carry on, sit around, see if there's anything we're gonna find. There's no update about yet that leopard track was being followed on the other side. There's no tracks coming out of the wood there. It's probably the same thing with these leopards where they sometimes just lay down whenever they feel free to do that. And they're tired of moving. It's going to be actually a simple way that if we ever bump on that leopard on a road or crossing the road or up in trees, so I'm going to continue search here. In the meantime, I'll be sending you over to a pridelands with a southern crowned Hornbu.
So, we have found 3 southern ground hornbills that are very excitedly chasing after some unfortunate flying insect. You can see there are many of them. I wonder what it caught. It has got something small in its beak now. But this is 3 hornbills that we have seen before, which is quite cool. They live around here. They pop on to Djuma, which is just north of Impala Plains. And I'm wondering, I don't know if it's the same family group. It could be a different group. But on Kwenga, which is just to the east of Pridelands, where we can also traverse, they've recently discovered a natural southern ground hornbill nest, which is really, really awesome. Because I don't know if you all know this, but for the new viewers that are watching, southern ground hornbills make their nests in massive tree cavities, but unfortunately their nesting sites are on the decline due to multiple reasons. But one of the big ones out here is habitat loss, and then of course damage to big trees by elephants. So this tree, I think, is on the Motlabetsi River. I have seen them around that area before, and if I'm not mistaken, there's 3, and this isn't too far away from them. Southern ground hornbills actually have rather large territories, and there's only about 1,500, give or take, within this greater Kruger area, so including the Timbavati, Thorny Bush, here Prideland, this Baluli sort of game reserve, and even into the Sabi Sand and all the other private reserves surrounding the Kruger National Park. So that's not much. So half of the population of birds in South Africa are in the greater Kruger, which is pretty amazing. Quite sad though to hear that a lot of their habitat, unfortunately, or areas that they would have normally been found in, has either disappeared. There we go, there's one just popping out. We're going to try and reposition though at some point, just to try and get a better view of them, but they are on their way north out of the reserve. So it's quite cool to hear that there is at least one family group that is breeding. Whether they're going to be successful or not, I'm not so sure. I'm going to go actually just reverse. I think this will be the best choice. And they're being monitored now by the Southern Ground Hornbill Project, which is really cool. Carrie and Kyle are doing all the research there, and I've been lucky enough to actually go out and put up an artificial nest. So that's something that they've been doing. That project for the ground hornbills has been going since 2000. Sure, so that's 21 years ago. Pretty spectacular. And they started putting up artificial nests in the early 2000s. And since then, they've noticed obviously an increase in successful breeding. Not very successful breeding birds, but we're going to have a look at them again now. Just have to bear with us. There's one. Oh, the other 2 are just a little bit further back, but maybe they'll feed in our direction. Beautiful. You can also see how lush it all is as we were driving. There they are. There's perfect habitat for them too, out in the open plains like this. So they typically spend a bit of time here on Impala Plains, and I'm almost certain that it's the same family, but I shall check with the key researchers. So if we do get a good enough opportunity to take some screenshots of these birds, it would be much appreciated. They're a bit too far away for myself and Ngala to really get good pictures on our cameras, because there is sort of a citizen project within the greater Kruger National Park, again including all these private reserves, where you can send in your photos. And so you can send them in, and it will give a better understanding on, I suppose their territories, how many birds there are around, because remember, not just with the mammal species, we can also tell individuals. Not sure if they're tagging any of them. There they go. But seriously ferocious predators. I've seen them eating all sorts of things. Now, Luke, you had a question about how big can these birds get. So they're quite a heavy bird. They weigh just under 4 kilograms or so. So I'd say anywhere between just over 3 kilograms to about 3.8, 3.9 kilos. So they're a heavy bird. And they do fly, although they spend most of their time on the ground, because this is how they hunt. So they're not catching anything in the air. They'll actively feed like this. Sort of moving through looking for prey on branches or underneath rocks. You'll see them turning over logs and all sorts of things. And they have quite a big wingspan if you're lucky enough to see them fly. They are good flyers, but there's no need for them to fly massive distances. Obviously, otherwise they're not going to find anything to eat. And that's a waste of energy. And the wingspan is just over 1 meter. So they're beautiful birds. Really, really awesome. Now, the thing that obviously hampers this bird's existence is, unfortunately, they're not very good breeders. So they don't always breed every single year. Occasionally it happens. Since this project with the southern ground hornbills, they have noticed that there have been a couple of pairs. So they call it the APNRs, the Associated Private Nature Reserves. So that includes Kalahari, all these different places, and they've been doing some studies, and they were even showing that there were some pairs that were breeding and rearing chicks successfully every single year, where typically they'll lay 1 or 2 eggs, and unfortunately when one chick hatches, or if 2 chicks do hatch, the other chick will kill the second one, which is quite sad. So they perform siblicide, and then they don't normally make it to adulthood, and they take up to 6 years to reach adulthood, so it's quite tough. Anyways, we'll see if we can stick with these hornbills for a little bit longer. Off you go across to Lauren, who's looking at a spotted cat.
Unfortunately, the Duke has just gone flat, so he gave us a little bit of a performance. He's got an Impala here. It's an adult. Can't see if it's male or female from this angle. And look at that. He's just nestled it in the grass. It's not hoisted. The grass is extremely long, though. Just behind the dam wall. Now, he was eating just mere seconds ago, and he's decided to curl up and go flat. Which unfortunately means we don't have any view whatsoever now. I don't even see a rosette. Simon, I'm going to inch forward, but otherwise, if we really, really can't see anything, then I'm not sure we can work around this. Oh, wait, I can see a tail. Can you see a tail? Your tail is giving you away, Tingana. There we go. That belongs to Mr. T. I think he'll get up and feed again, but he's really picked the perfect spot. Shaded, long grass, damp soil. It's exactly what you want in this kind of weather. It's already really, really hot. So it's not much to work with, I'm afraid. Sorry, everyone. I don't know where that cough came from. And he killed it himself. At some point in the wee early hours of the morning, he was also in our camp. We knew he was in this drainage line. It's just not the best area to be driving right now for lots of vehicles. So we may not be able to stay here until the end. It's a one vehicle sighting. It's not the most riveting sighting, I'm afraid. We'll give it another while in case he gets up. But he's not hoisted, and really there's not that many options around him to hoist. I don't quite know what he would do if a hyena came along. But we will wait it out to see if he stands up. We'll give it 10 minutes or so. But for now, over to Phinda.
We found some wildebeest and 3 very young wildebeest calves who are trying to get a little bit of shade, under or relief from the sun under that tiny little tree. Quite interesting. You see when that adult did a bit of a snort there, the 2 youngsters got up. Just shows how in tune they are to the herd's communication. The 3rd little one didn't seem too bothered. But yeah, they just got up and were ready to run. I think that wildebeest was snorting at us because we are just slightly behind a bush for him, and he was maybe thought we were trying to sneak up on him. Her rather, sorry, she's got a calf. And these calves are all very little. They all will have been born in the last month. And the one on, both of the two closest to us actually still have their little umbilical cords. So even newer, all three of them do. Yeah, so even much newer than a month.
Up from the break, Zucker West.
Sorry. Yeah, so very young, maybe only about a week or so. Such funny shaped animals. And when they're little, they're so gangly with their funny little ears sticking out to the side. Well, Bubbles, because wildebeest are herd animals, their first line of defense is moving and keeping as a herd. But also you can see that they've got quite sharp horns on the top of their heads. And look how thick their necks are. They've got quite thick necks and quite muscly shoulders. You see how their body shape is like quite big at the front, like neck and shoulders, and then tapers off to the back. So that means that they're quite good runners. They're nice and fast, but they are also quite strong. So they've got those horns to defend their calves, which they would use against predators. Oh, little sneezes from that little one. But like I said, the first line of defense is being in a herd, staying in a herd and trying to run as a herd, not let anyone single you out. Yo, that one female. So, I mean, the two under the tree, the one on the right is a male. You can see he's quite a bit bigger than the one on the left, who's a female, but she also has one funny horn. I can't quite see it at the moment because the side she's showing to us is actually fine. But every now and again she turns her head and you can see that she's got a strange... I don't know if she's actually completely missing the horn or if it's like a... I don't know. The other one's moved in its way. So weird. I can just see like a little snub. I want to move forward and see if we can see. Sorry, I don't want to scare you all away. Oh, you can see from the back that it's just, yeah, it's broken off there. Like as where it curves down from her head to curve up again, it's actually just broken off. So that actually fits perfectly into your question, Bubbles, about how they use their, or how they defend their calves. But I do think that this probably would have maybe been lost in conflict with another wildebeest, not necessarily with a predator. You can imagine the knocking of horns together. There we go, now she's looking at us. Could have caused that one to break. Again, with that horse, the force of that strength that they've got on their shoulders and neck. Yeah, it even looks like it's bent, like even further down than the other one is. It looks like it was growing. Maybe it was like a deformed one growing in a funny angle, which made it kind of more brittle and also in a bit of just more vulnerable to breaking off. Anyways, we're going to leave these guys to settle back into a nice shady spot. We don't want them to have to move out into the sun. We're going to send you back to Lauren and her leopard.
He's up. More than a tail. He's hungry. Not the best views we've ever had of Tinganana, the big banana. But he's up, he's eating. And I remember Manny having a panic. Where's Tingana? Where's Tingana? And we didn't see him for a long time. And it's actually incredible and slightly ironic that we're seeing a lot of them in summer, especially when the vegetation is this thick. And I just cannot get over what good condition he is in. Yes, he was going through a period of stealing from his daughter, but what you've got to remember, any predator will do that. I don't mean steal from their daughter, but look at Kara last night, stealing from her mother. Hosanna stealing from Prissy the hyena. Hyena's continually stealing from leopards. Lion, we've had lions chase leopards off kills. It's not very often you'll see a leopard chase a lion, but you get my point. So if Tingana comes across Kalamba, because it's his offspring, he knows he can steal from her. He knows he outweighs her in every sort of way. Way with a different spelling. He's bigger than her, he's more muscular than her, he's taller than her, and he knows that she won't fight back. But I've not seen a daddy-daughter interaction in quite some time. You see, he's plucking all the hairs off. Which means he'll be here for quite some time. Unless he really does lose this Impala to hyenas, who I imagine will be very, very flat right now because it's hot. Then he's going to be here all day. And this is the drainage line right below the dam wall that we always fund, Hosanna, Tingana's son. Do leopards hunt every day? I didn't catch that name, but no, they don't really need to hunt every day. They can if it's small things. They're mammals, they need to top up their food supply always. It's the fuel that keeps them going. But a big kill like this, Tingana could sit on this for 2-3 days. Eat, sleep, rest, digest. Eat, sleep, rest, digest. It really depends on what they've had. If he had just snacked on a scrub here, then by tomorrow he absolutely will be hungry. But they don't need to feed every day. They can go long bouts without eating, especially if they've just finished a large carcass. They're also not entirely water dependent. Is he moving it? Is he going further in? Oh my goodness. It's getting too hot, that's why. You see the sun's coming right over to where he just was. There was something else we wanted to show you though. Simon was getting some beautiful views. So since we've lost Tingana, we're just going to show you. I think it is a net-winged beetle, or the slender net-winged. I'm not completely sure. You still got it, Simon, just on the edge of this grey branch here. They're everywhere now, and they're mating. One of my favourite beetles. The net-winged beetle is very, very round in the wing, almost looks circular. Whereas the slender net-wing, as you can probably imagine, has very slender, square-shaped wings. Oh, there's two. No, there's one. Sorry, I'm seeing things. I think this is the net-winged. Very obvious with the orange colour and in the black at the bottom. They describe them as leathery bodies, and what that means is the wings have quite a leathery texture. They're not soft, they're not fragile, they're quite robust. And all the species of net-winged, it's a group of beetles, it's not one specific species. Net-winged beetles are a group, and they all mimic each other. And this is sort of what I talk about when I refer to the butterflies sometimes. So you get different types of mimicry in the animal kingdom, but this is Mullerian mimicry, where they're all unpalatable. They all contain toxins, and therefore they all mimic each other to sort of reduce the impact that they have on predators. So the predator will recognize those orange wings with the black tip as do not eat, warning, not palatable, upset tummy, not pleasant, may be fatal. So therefore, if they all look the same, they've got a better chance of surviving. Whereas if all the net-winged beetles look different, maybe some were yellow, some were red, some were blue, then the predator may not remember all of them unpalatable, do not eat. And therefore, it may reduce, a sort of increase their chance of being eaten, if that makes sense. They are classified as poisonous, not to humans though. So it's not venom. It doesn't have to be injected as poisonous, which means it needs to be ingested. So something has to eat it. And that's why all the net-winged beetles really do look the same. And there's about 50 species. Okay, I'm going to try and go round, but do not get your hopes up. But I'll try and see if we can get a view of the Duke.
Now we got tortoises. It's called a leopard tortoise. It's going to try and climb that hill, trying to get away from the heat. They got to be available a whole morning. If it was too much hot, and they were able to do their activity just before it's too hot, so they eat grasses. They're vegetarian. Soft grasses, mushrooms, some herbs around here. Now just well hidden in a shade. Tortoises hibernate in the winter. Hide loose in them. They go into the very much curved area or thick enough, won't come out the whole winter. In that time they would have stored enough water in their body and it won't eat. So this is what makes them sustain. So they wouldn't stand a chance in the colder weather. But first rain, they come out, started to move about, eat, and they are diurnal creatures.
You're going to have to bear with us, everyone. We have no visual of the leopard, and this is an incredibly tricky drainage line. We can't go any further, the ground is too wet, so just bear with me. I think we might need to do you think we can get through here with the antenna, Simon? We might have to drop the antenna, Jared. We're a bit stuck. The leopard is in a big thicket here. I don't think we're going to get a view of him. Maybe we just need to loosen it a little bit before we get stuck in this russet bush willow. How do I know that? Look at the pods. Oh, I did not mean to break that. These little pods here belong to the russet bush willow. Russet in colour, it's a combretum. Are we all good? Okay, this is a present for you, Simon. You can hold this and we're going to try and navigate through. I can see a few rosettes. I think Tingana is a no-go for now, I'm afraid. At least we've got some views of them. I'm just trying to see if we can get any view from here. Can you see him, Simon? I don't. Simon's going to show you how thick it is and what we're actually looking at here. It's incredible. If he wasn't on the dam cam, I don't think... I mean, obviously we saw his tracks. They came right out of our camp and we could have followed him into this area, but he's there. But unfortunately, and we're not going to push it. We're just going to leave the drainage line. WildEarth leaving Tingana on open lock, same position, visual 0 out of 5. Okay, let's get out of this drainage line. Osana used to always be here. I have such good memories of this drainage line in Tingala. That's how I know it so well. I know it like the back of my hands. Hours and hours spelt with Osana down here. Okay, I'm going to navigate out of this tricky spot, and for now we're going to send you across to Andrew. Standing by, Davina.
Alright, let's see, we're gonna now check between them here. See if we find anything drinking. The best actually time for it there. Best time to check water hole. It's starting to get warm. Wouldn't be surprised that leopard is their hide. That they sometimes are sneaky, especially when they have kill and they're beautiful shade. Wonderful place for them to hide. They wouldn't come out. White-faced duck. Beautiful birds. Life around here, all singing about. Background. What you hear is musk weaver. Musk weaver. Impala in the background. Probably right in a dim wall there. Looking at us. This weaver still continuing building his nest. Some of them might have completed their nest, but some of them haven't completed yet. And it's such an amazing system how it works. You see all of them there. And just because of the breeding season, it's right now. Female and the male, two partners will stick together. So Joshua asking how long does it take to build a complete whole thing process? Roughly 15 days, 12 days, 15 days there. And only the problem is, it's when the female, she don't like it. It's always, oh, look at this. So what you see there, all two of them, with a male and a female trying to assist each other. And then they'll come back, bring all the material. Female should do all the work. So 12-15 days process. And the nest will be completely done by that time. The reason they breed this time of year is because of the valuable grass material they need. All you see is nests all built from these grasses material. As you can see, some nests are dry, brown a bit. Some still like greenish, which those are just kind of like complete not long ago. Impala still making their way. Probably they're looking for a spot to drink. They decide to get water. Beverly, so you're asking if there's any especially grasses they would use. Any type of grasses, but buffalo grasses, bushveld buffalo grasses species, and there's this little reed stuff which grows around the water, and they will mainly use those. They use things that is easy for them to chop using their little beak and bring it back to the nest. And this material grass, it's got to be still wet, green, because once it's dry, you won't be able to use them. Too harder for them to be able to work on this once it's dry off. Andrea, so you're asking if they ever use a nest? No. So every breeding season it's got to be a new nest. And those nests will probably rot, become weaker and they drop into water. If they ever remain, then it's fine. But it will come in place or change trees. Choose another tree close by, place their nest. New nest every year. So all you see with the little black faces are males. Females don't have them. Just the normal, like little yellow around their eyes. So there's time up because they won't do this once it's dark. Got to exercise now the energy during the day. Although, yes, so you're asking if these entrances actually pointed down. And all you see, what you're looking at the one here, is actually on the entrance. So it's always downwards. And then when they fly in, when it's done, what they do, they just make sure that they aim the target of the entrance when they fly in, kind of like shoot in, and they're very much usable little legs, clawed, able to hold up as they go in. it's always safety. They're a clever bird. They build a nest, or they have to be a tree surrounded by water for safety away from the snake. There's a time where they would have a free period for them to feed. This is where the noise is going to settle down. And they're all going to be just feeding on seeds. They will carry on again when they're all done feeding. Come back, start it again. Business done. And inside, there's a specific grass they use called a red top seed grasses. And they were kind of like a very much cotton. Just smooth inside for laying eggs. Once this whole breeding season done, everybody's going to return on their places. So I'm going to carry on search around here. I'm going to be sending you over across to Ngala.
We've had no luck with the lions this morning, and unfortunately we haven't picked up on any leopard tracks either. We did, however, receive reports from one of the other vehicles that they found the lioness with 2 cubs, and we went to go have a look, but unfortunately she was in an area where it's very tricky to get a good view, and our signal wasn't good there either. So we've left that area, we've left the Timbavati riverbed, and we are currently driving along the clearings in the central parts, hoping that we might come across a herd of one of the general game species, maybe Impala. It has been a relatively quiet morning on Ngala. We have very few vehicles out at the moment, so the areas covered weren't that much, and usually the less vehicles in a place like Ngala, that makes it a little bit more tricky to know exactly what moves where. But we've had some beautiful views. This time of the year, this area is absolutely stunning due to the color of the grass and all the trees that have got their leaves back. Now, just up ahead, there's a small mud wallow, and we're hoping that, I know that over the past few days I've seen some warthogs there, so we're going to go have a look and see if we might get lucky with them. We're going to send you over to Lauren in the meantime.
I've managed to put my first elegant grasshopper on the camera. Clinging onto signal grass. We call this grass a signal grass because, well, the shape of it looks like it symbolizes signal, the thing that we sometimes don't get out here that frustrates us all. But this is an elegant grasshopper, very large in size, one of the largest, and extremely brightly colored. Why? Why would it have bright colors? Why would energy have gone into producing these beautiful colorations? It's a warning. It's called aposematic coloration, and it's very prevalent through the animal kingdom. And it's a visual warning to visual species. Hey, guys, I know I'm delicious, but don't eat me. I'm poisonous. I contain toxins. It's not going to be fun eating me. So aposematic coloration is really not prevalent or present in mammals, but in insects it is. And that's exactly what was happening with the net-winged beetles. Bright colorations. Don't eat me, guys. I'm going to taste horrible. It's not going to be fun for you. It's a warning. But it's only going to work when your predators are also highly visual. There's no point in sending a warning in a visual capacity if your predators are highly olfactory. So because a lot of insects have great visual capacities, then they can understand the signal. There's no point in sending out a signal to your predators to protect yourself if your predator will not understand it. And that's why it's so prevalent in insects. Other insects will understand, birds will understand, because they also have color vision. There's no point in sending a signal in color if the person receiving the signal can only see in black and white. So that's what they're trying to do by being brightly colored like this. And why does it contain toxins? Where does the toxins come from? And the toxins come from basically a lot of poisons that they actually eat. Through different plants that they eat that contain these toxins, they bioaccumulate in the grasshopper's body. That's what we call it. So it'll start off in very low concentrations, but it can build up, it can accumulate inside the organism. And that's exactly what makes them poisonous. Bioaccumulation of toxins that have came from what they eat. And they're said to taste absolutely awful, at least to a human perspective. They secrete a special yellow liquid that helps them to taste horrible. So that's also what the warning is there for. Don't eat me. Don't even bother. It's not going to be fun. And because the coloration, the aposematic coloration, has been so successful, it's been a winner. It really does deter predators, birds and other insects, that over time they've not really had a huge need to fly. They hop, they use their big, long, overdeveloped hind limbs to spring away, but they don't really need to fly because the coloration does the trick. And therefore, at least the males anyway, they have very underdeveloped wings. Really, really underdeveloped. Again, why waste energy in growing strong, complicated wings when you don't need them because you've got aposematic coloration that's really deterring the predators anyway. So when they jump, they spring into the air, they often sort of land back down on the ground rather quickly. They're not flying, so to speak. But the females do have much more developed wings than the males. They're still not great, they're still not strong flyers, but their wings are far more developed, and that's because they need to find the males to reproduce. I do believe humans can eat the elegant grasshoppers, and I do not ever fancy trying. But the sort of toxins, the poison, it wouldn't be harmful to humans. And I think in petty culture, petty tribes, they will actually eat them with porridge. We eat a lot of porridge in Scotland, but definitely not with grasshoppers.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique WildEarth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with WildEarth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all WildEarth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we'd normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome back. So we've stopped to check a watering hole because the morning is heating up. We were thinking that maybe some animals might have come down to drink. And here the purple-crested turako. And we've actually just been enjoying all the noises like we were this morning. The red-fronted tinkerbird is also going. That consistent, almost beeping noise. It sounds like a reversing truck. And then a hammerkorp in the water just ahead. But the most consistent thing that we've been watching are the dragonflies that you can see quite a lot of flying above the water. You can see them every now and again kind of touching the surface of the water. And that'll be either to lay eggs, but dragonflies are also very successful predators, and they'll be hunting around for little invertebrates. Other little water-dwelling insects and animals that are small enough for them to prey upon. Like we were sitting at the watering hole yesterday with those birds, watering holes always give you quite a bit. You always start to notice more and more the longer you sit. It's always a hub of activity. Got an Impala calling now as well. And a somber green bull. It's really, really just a beautiful way to end off our morning. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, this morning, and hopefully we will see you again this afternoon at 4 o'clock Central Africa time.